Howdy everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to wire a 412 speaker cabinet, guitar cabinet. I built this a while back. These are Celestion speakers. For the people, just for knowledge, these are 16 ohm speakers, and this is wired as parallel series, which means if I plug a guitar head into this, I am still getting a 16 ohm load. And on this, we have our connectors, an input, which would go to the head, and then the jump. If it goes through and jumps to another cabinet, then it would be an 8 ohm load. It's just a little trivia information if someone's looking to wire up something. So that's what we're doing. So for this particular one, 16 ohm load, and we are going to wire this. And I'll give you a couple bits of information about this. The speaker's already pre-done. Let me just open up one of these. And I ran onto this myself. I had to correct it before I did the tutorial. These posts are individual. So these are already pre-done to where you'll see right here, there's a point. And then, so when I attach a cable, this particular one will go in this direction. But when I originally did it, I had them as one piece. So that means the next thing, even though it would attach, would still go in the same direction. When you do this wiring, your parts have to be individually done. If they're not, then they're not going to go in the direction that you want them to go. And you'll notice we have a plus and a minus, positive, negative poles for the speaker itself. Let's go ahead and close that. Now the connector plate, and this is why I pre-wired those just to save a little time. On the connector plate itself, you'll notice there's no connections, there's no points. So, and I have to point this out. I see points here, you'll say working features. This is not what you would use for wiring. You have to go into the proper area for that. So since these are assemblies, that's not going to work. You're still not going to see what you need to see. So I have to go in, drill down into this. I could do it from here, but it gets a little clumsy and you're backing in and out. So I'm just going to open up the connector itself. Okay. And now these are, you'll see the history tree. If I roll over these, you'll see these individuals. This is the tip for the connection, and this is the ground. So let's just pick on one of these and open it up, and here we have just the individual parts. Now we're able to do a connection for that. So if I go over to modeling, you'll still see working features. You do not want these. That's for models and other connections. If you're doing bolt holes and whatnot, that's the point that you would work point. That's not what you want. You have to do this. You'll see harness. It has its own individual ones. If you don't see this, if you right click on your dialog, you'll see show panels. Down here I have it turned on. Just put the check mark and this will show up. So you have a point. So let's pick this. We're going to go ahead and pick right here. I want it to the outside of that. It's going to give you a number. You can give it anything you want, as detailed that you need to be. I'm just going to say okay to that. Here's the other catch. If I just left it at this, if it was not, I think I already have done this once on this, so it would treat it differently. Normally, the cable would come straight out or would go in a wrong direction. You have to tell it which direction you want it to be. And now this is not intuitive because you would assume you would do that from here. That is not the case. You have to go over to manage, and then you go to here, connections. If you don't see connections, do the pull down menu. Here's your list. If you pick connection, just by chance, I think it's because I've already done this once before on this connector, it's going to point. You would select the edge. You would do the select. You see here, you would make sure that you're pointing or selecting something that would go in that direction. If it's going the wrong way, sometimes it'll be this direction. That's not what you want because the cable would go down and around. You want to make sure it's pointing in the direction you want to be. So once you say this, it'll give you a dialog that says authoring is successful. And From here, you would go ahead and save it. So if we close this, now you'll see one. We got to do the other one as well. Right click on it. I'm going to open this. Same process. Since it's individual, we're going to go to 3D model, all the way over here to harness. We need our point, and I want them to the outside. It's going to stay with 1 for this number. Right click, say done. Go to manage, and you do connector. When you pick on this, we just happen to have it go in the right direction. Same thing. It's going to say yay. Hit save. Close that. You'll see the connection. Now I use the same connector on the panel, so I'm going to hit save on that too. Never trust a computer. And now, since they're the same connector, they're both set up. You want to prep everything, and a lot of people do this for connectors, and they'll just, when they're building their model, they'll go ahead and do this because they know sooner or later when they bring it in, they're going to go ahead and add cabling to it. So from here, we can hit save on that, get out of that, and now I already have a blank tutorial ready to go, and we're going to wire this up. Now I'm going to, here's the one thing that takes a little while and you have to be patient. From here, to get into the wiring environment, we have to go to environments, hence the name. And then you'll see this. A lot of times you'll pick this, it'll seem like forever and you'll think something's broken. It just takes a while for it to generate. Let's see if we get lucky today. It's going to ask for a name. We're just going to leave it at that and say okay, and now we wait. Strangely enough, I think because I was already in there earlier, it popped up. This can take a couple minutes, and don't get frustrated. A lot of people will say, well, it's all grayed out, nothing's working, so I'm going to say finish. You'll get this list down here in your history tree, but it still has to do the process. So if it takes a couple minutes, go get a cup of coffee or something, just come back, and when these are all active, then you're ready to go. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and wire this up. For here, you go over to this, we go pick for wire, and to make it easier to see, even though we would not use 10 gauge for wiring this, which would be ridiculous. It's normally 16 gauge when you're wiring this type of speakers. And we have a list, so you can go alpha, Belden, a couple different things. We're going to do generic. We're going to leave it a generic, and we're going to do 10 gauge, so it's easy to see for the tutorial. And we're going to do our jumpers first, so we're going to do green. So that's active. It's waiting for me to pick my first. And on the speakers, how these are done, let's move this out of the way a little bit. You'll see a plus and a minus. And since this is going to be wired in parallel series, this is what we need. So we're going to jumper this one over to this one. Okay, we're going to go positive to negative, and we're going to hit apply. Okay, so there's our green wire. And now we're going to go down and wire the next one. And since we already have the directions of what we wanted for our cable, that's why it is going in the right direction. So that is green, and I'm going to say okay to that. Now you'll see that this is just a thin wire. Sometimes you have to force it. If it's here, it's just going to show you a thin wire. You have to go into display render and force it. Now it'll be silhouetted until we're completely done with that. So there's our first portion. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and wire the rest of this. Pick wire again, and I want to use the positive, so I want to find 10 gauge, and I want it to be white. Where am I? Okay, right here. So from here, we're going to go positive. Oops, zoom back a little bit too far. To positive right here. Okay, say apply to that. And from here, we're going to jump down to the connector. So we're going to go positive, and we're going to go down to our positive connector, which is this. And we're going to pick here. So apply. Now we want to jumper these to the other connector. So let's go, same thing, out into this one. We're jumping our jacks together. Okay. That is our white. We're running this. Some people will actually do black for positive. Doesn't matter. It's however you want to wire it. But I do green on this, so I just know that I'm doing the parallel portion and not the series. Or I could have said that backwards. Doesn't matter. You understand. So I'm going to cancel out of that. If it's not showing the thicker, you can pick it again. Then you can see it kind of change. It's just an anomaly. It's just one of those, some people call it a feature and some people call it a bug. All right, so now we're going to do the negative side of this. So we're going to do wire, pull down menu. We're going to go find black. We're ready to go on that. So we're going to go from negative to negative. So you apply. Same thing, you'll see the wire, it's just the nature of the beast. So we're going to go from here and we're going to go down to our connector plate. Sorry, a little zooming. Say OK, and now we're going to jump over to the other connector. And that should be totally wired. Pick this again if it's not showing up, and now once I said OK to that, we're wired. Now you'll see a catch-22. The wires will flow and do it at the best position. But I want to move these because obviously that's not going to work for wiring. We have a collision. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to double click on my wire and go back into it. From here, I am going to right click. Oops, let me go in my wire here. I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to go down to here. It says add point. And for where I am here, this is what I want to lift out of the wood. Okay. Right click, go finish. And I want to do the same thing for our ground. So I'm going to pick on this, add point, and this is where we're going to lift those. And I'll finish. Now here's what you want to do. I'm going to go in this position so you can see what's happening. Those are our 2 points. You can put more if you need to wrangle around other things. But for this one, you hover over it. You'll see it turn red. If you right click, you come down to 3D move and rotate. It's already positioned to world coordinates. So I'm going to hover over this. You'll see it turn red. And I'm going to move this up. And this is an important thing. You would think, okay, I'm done. I'll say okay. No. If you do that, it'll go right back down to where it was. You have to right click in this dialog and say okay. Then the wire moves. We're going to do the same thing for the other one. So we're going to find that, 3D move, select the direction, the tip there, move it up. I'm going to put it about the same. Right click. Enter or finish. You can hit it, enter on the keyboards. Okay, so now did I do them too far? Yeah, I have a little bit of a collision here, so that's my fault. I was going a little overzealous. Now if I wanted to be a little different, I can pick on this, right click, and where am I for here? Here we go, add point. I can add a point here, right click, finish. Pick on this particular one and then move it. So there's a bunch of ways you can do that. So now that's out of the way of these other two that I moved up. So we're completely, there's no collision on anything. Everything's running smoothly. And that's exactly how we would wire a speaker cabinet. I hope this is informative. If you have any questions, just send me an email and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next tutorial.